Greetings, listeners, and thank you for joining me once again as we celebrate stories and storytelling in all their forms and the bards and artists who bring them all to life. I am the Tale Collector and your host, Erica Adams. I discovered Owl City on my car radio in the UMD parking lot. About a year or so later, I discovered this music project at UMD as well, this time while I was at a vending table in the hallway outside the bookstore, selling copies of The Roaring Muse, the official magazine of UMD's Literary Guild. Many of the other vendors advertising their own respective clubs, charities, and causes would often play music on their laptops, presumably to alleviate the boredom, or, more likely, to grab people's attention, like mine for instance. On the other side of one of the pillars that stood behind my table, another table was playing the chorus of a song that I was unfamiliar with. Truth be told, it did sound a little annoying at first, being mixed with the hustle and bustle of students and teachers and all the other noises of the campus. Even so, the series of notes rhythmically punctuating the air in a sort of high-pitched staccato was too intriguing to ignore. I decided to take a quick break from my own vending duties to go to the table and ask the boy there about the song's title and its artist, which he very kindly provided. As soon as I got home, I was able to listen to the song properly. And I have to say, in retrospect, college couldn't have been a more appropriate time or place to hear this music for the first time, except for high school maybe. Without further ado, let me present M83, performing from 2001 to the present, and recommended for listeners 16 and up. Though originally a duo featuring Nicolas Fromageau, today M83's sole official member is its creator, Anthony Gonzalez, a vocalist, songwriter, and record producer from Antibes, France. After an injury at the age of 14 left him unable to play football, an interest that he shared with his family, his parents bought him a guitar, encouraging him to develop a keen interest in music. He would go on to form the project M83 with Fromageau 3 years later, though the latter would ultimately leave it in 2009 in order to pursue his own music career. The band is named after Messier 83, one of the sky's closest and brightest spiral galaxies, so close in fact that it is fully capable of being seen with binoculars. Located approximately 15 million light-years away from Earth in the constellation Hydra, it is also known in the New General Catalog of Nebulae and Clusters of Stars as NGC 5236, as well as the Southern Pinwheel Galaxy, due to its resemblance to the Pinwheel Galaxy found in the constellation Ursa Major, aka the Great Bear. And now that I've thoroughly bored you all with that random astronomy lesson, back to the music. Inspired by such bands as My Bloody Valentine, Pink Floyd, and Tangerine Dream, M83's electronic sound is laced with a distinct 1980s vibe, a combination of contemporary pop and the dream pop of the same decade. The aforementioned song, Midnight City, has been featured not only in a variety of shows, films, and commercials, both in Europe and North America, but even in the 2012 UEFA European Championship and the London 2012 Olympic Games. Moreover, North American listeners will likely recognize M83's songs from many films of the early 2010s, including, but not limited to, the entire soundtrack of Oblivion, I Need You in Divergent, Wait in The Fault in Our Stars, and Another Way From You and outro in the remake of The Gambler. Having first heard Midnight City and its corresponding album, Hurry Up We're Dreaming, the 6th, and from there its 5th, Saturdays Equal Youth, and its 7th, Junk, I had initially become much more familiar with M83's later music, ranging from 2008 to 2016 as of the time I write this. But as I listened to the first 4 albums, ranging from 2001 to 2007, I began to notice an increasingly apparent change in style. Starting with Saturdays, from a lyrical and rhythmic standpoint, the songs feel very developed and structured. In contrast, Gonzalez's earlier pieces sound more like experimental demos. From backdrops of random voices or other sound effects, to a lack of precise musical arrangement or direction, this era of M83 is marked by a more definitive ambience. Ambiguous, spontaneous, intuitive. Now, I don't know if Gonzalez intended this, and I might be reading too much into it, but this change in style could reflect a process of personal reflection and maturation through music. More to the point, I think the aesthetic and thematic approach of M83 as a whole can be summed up with one word: teenager. Dreams, freedom, love, loneliness, melancholy, nostalgia. Gonzalez touches upon many of the feelings young people long to understand and the questions they long to answer, with songs that masterfully illustrate the nature of youthful rebellion and imagination. To begin with, the band's distinct vocal style involves lyrics often being sung in a deliberately soft and whispery voice on top of much louder instruments, a figurative expression of a restless artistic soul trying to find meaning in that ugly, beautiful chaos we call life, in ways neither right nor wrong. One may remember and lament a past life now gone, on Sunday night 1987, chase life in order to unearth its secrets, declaring, "We own the sky," struggle through the pain and confusion it inflicts in the aptly named teen angst, or hit it head-on in a spiritual blaze of glory like the daredevil narrator of Steve McQueen. I realize how pretentious all this might sound, my own lofty words not helping, I'm sure, but I prefer to think of it as poetic. As I listen to this, I often imagine kids sitting cross-legged on their beds or under trees, writing stories or other deeply personal thoughts in their notebooks, just as I did a lot during my high school years. One of the more unique features of M83's songs is the inclusion of brief monologues by younger narrators in between choruses. These can range from childish and whimsical to introspective and poignant. In the track whose French title roughly translates to "Tell Me a Story," a child imagines how much more fun life would be if we all turned into frogs and became, quote, "the biggest group of friends the world has ever seen, jumping and laughing forever." And the eponymous graveyard girl feels more at home in the darkness than she ever could in the sunlight. The cemetery her sanctuary, the wise and silent stones her true teachers. There is one other intriguing feature that aids this trend. Not counting instrumental pieces, very, very few songs ever drop their respective titles. These can be comprised of short single couplets, like You Appearing, or they can be full anthems, like Intro. Regardless, this lack of direct referencing between a song and its title adds a new layer of depth and mystery to their meanings, just as any good poem does. It also invites us to ponder the spirit and mindset of the writer, like how we may ponder the universe and what our place in it will ultimately become. As I'm sure many will testify, myself included, the teen years comprise arguably one of the most turbulent points in a person's life, a time when we wonder whether to leave behind all that has brought us unadulterated joy while agonizing how to face the inevitability of our future. On the other hand, it's also a time to embrace the world through self-reflection and realizing our full potential. As nostalgically retro as it is contemporarily visceral, M83 is Gonzalez's sonic love letter to that immortal era and all that it stands for. Gather round next time for another tale you may have forgotten or have never heard before. Until then, listeners, may inspiration always find you.